If you put down the 24-hour grub killer this early in the season, then you are going to be wasting your money. Also, if you put Grub X down after you have damage, you are going to be wasting your money. May here in Southern Maryland, and we're coming up on the window of time to start treating for grubs. But what is a grub, and are they really that big of a deal? Should you spend the time and money to treat for them? So before we start talking about grub control, here to my left are my ranked priorities on how you, the homeowner, should be spending your hard-earned cash on lawn maintenance. Putting pest control and grubs at the bottom of this list on a video about grub control is not a tactic or trying to tell you that it's not important. But if you have to choose this year on whether or not you're going to put something down based on money, then I highly suggest that you should make sure that these things in red here have been addressed as well as you can. Watering, quality seed, your equipment, and soil management are going to set you apart way more than any of these other things down here. Now that's not to say grubs aren't important. Grubs and other insects below the surface of the soil can absolutely decimate a lawn. But if you are going into your local store and you are looking at the price of grub control and you don't know if that can fit your budget, I much rather you spend the money on something like a sprinkler setup or better seed come the fall, weed-free, something that's designed for your area, than trying to overextend yourself for a grub protection chemical. So what are grubs? Grubs are the larvae of various species of beetles that live in the soil and eat the roots of your turf grass. Annual grubs start the calendar year as larvae in your soil. They go into their pupa stage in late spring to early summer, and then early to midsummer, that's when they emerge as beetles, where they fly around, eat, mate, and then go back into your soil to lay their eggs. These eggs will hatch around July for the majority of the geography of the United States, regardless of where you live. Then those larvae from those eggs will in turn eat your roots again, but this time later in the year, like late summer. After which then they will dig deeper into your soil and overwinter in your lawn. In addition to annual grubs, there are also species of beetles that can produce multiple generations in a single year, and some that will take multiple years to produce a single generation. In addition to grubs, there are a variety of other insects that you can buy pesticide products for, like billbugs, weevils, chinch bugs, armyworms, multiple things. So keep that in mind when you're looking for grub control products, because they can market them as a kill-all, or sometimes they only attack grubs. Now, according to the Michigan State Extension Office, a normal cool season lawn, which is irrigated, fertilized, and mown at the correct height, can support a population of about 5 to 7 grubs per square foot. That means that they can eat all of they want and the lawn should be able to power through it. But if you have a larger amount of grubs in your soil, or you're not supporting your lawn with irrigation, especially through the summer months, then grubs can be a problem. So what does grub damage actually look like? Well, what will happen is the grubs will actually eat your roots from the bottom up. And we know that the grass's roots are what supplies not only nutrients and water to the plant, but it also cools it down. And so these symptoms that will come up from grub damage will be magnified, especially in the summer months when your plants are starving for water. There's probably not a lot of nutrients in the soil because you are backing off on the fertilizer, and the grass is struggling to cope with the heat. And then those roots aren't going to be there. So you'll see things like browning, die off, and then this will spread over the course of the yard over time if left unchecked. Turf damaged by grubs will almost pull up like a carpet in really bad areas, because that root mass is no longer there anchoring it to the soil, but that plant structure will still be there. So you can literally just peel it back. This is why irrigation is so important in lawns, that even if that root mass isn't there as much as it was due to the grubs, then the presence of water constantly being there will help the grass push through any damage that you might see. I'm not saying it's a 100% fix. Clearly grubs can still be an issue, but irrigation really is your number one priority. Another issue that might indicate that you have grubs or other below soil pests is that you'll have the presence of moles or skunks or other vertebrate animals, not insects, that are going to be digging into your yard looking for that source of food. Now, is it true that if you have moles, you most certainly have grubs? Absolutely not. Moles eat way more than grubs. They eat millipedes, centipedes, ants, worms, multiple things that are living in your soil that aren't going to disturb your lawn. So keep that in mind if you do have a mole or a skunk or a problem like that. Here's where the issue lies. Cool season grass in the summer turns brown all of the time. It will turn brown because it's hot, it will turn brown because it's not getting enough water, it'll turn brown because of heat stress, it'll turn brown because of disease, it'll turn brown for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's just going dormant, and other times there's a serious issue wrong with your turf. So again, just because your lawn is turning brown, maybe in patches, maybe in swaths, it is not always indicative of a grub problem. So in that case, you need to get out and inspect it, maybe dig and see what's going on. So we've talked a little bit about how grubs live and how they can damage your lawn. Now let's talk about 2 ways to help mitigate grubs. One will be preventative applications and another will be curative applications. Preventative applications are exactly what they sound like. You put them down before the damage occurs. So in late spring to early summer, you will spread your product or you will spray it and then water it in, and that active ingredient will hang out in your soil. As the grubs come back from mating and they lay their eggs, that product will be there and will take care of your grub problem before there's an issue. Then there are curative applications, also known as rescue applications. Why? Because you are trying to rescue or cure your turf of a problem that already exists. And that can be tough in the grub game because we know how grubs can damage our turf. So once we see signs of damage, once we see the grass turning brown or peeling up, then we're not growing those roots back. We can kill the grubs, but it's going to be tough to save our turf, especially if it's cool season in the summer. This season, I'm going to be applying a preventative to my lawn and my customers' lawns. There are 2 common chemicals that you can use. One is Imidacloprid and one is Chlorantraniliprole. Say it with me, Chlorantraniliprole. You can't use it if you can't pronounce it. Let's compare these 2 chemicals. The first is Imidacloprid. Imidacloprid is more water soluble, so you should aim to put it down later in that preventative window, around mid-June to July. Father's Day is a good frame of reference. It's cheaper, and a study from Michigan State found that it kills 75 to 100% of the grub populations that it tested on, so it is extremely effective. The main drawback to Imidacloprid is that it is highly toxic to pollinators, so things like bumblebees. And what happens is it is sprayed on the turf and watered in, but it is still coating anything that could be attracting pollinators, like some flowering weeds that you might not have taken care of. And this will definitely kill them. There are ways to limit that impact, so you could do a really good job managing your weeds on places like greens of golf courses, for example. They don't really have a lot of weeds, or hopefully they don't have a lot of weeds. You could also mow and then put the product down, but it's not always 100% effective, so you really need to keep that in mind if you're going to use Imidacloprid. Now let's talk about Chlorantraniliprole. Chlorantraniliprole is not as water soluble as Imidacloprid, so it's going to stay in your soil for longer, which means it has more of an effective window to apply. You could put it down now, which is around mid-May, all the way up until July. It's a bit more expensive, and in that same study from Michigan State, it killed about 60 to 75% of the grub population, so not 100%, but the main attractor is that it is friendly to pollinators. And in several studies, it has been applied to turf grass with and without weeds, and there has been no effect on pollinator populations. So with all that said, what am I doing? Well, am I treating for grubs? Yes, I am. The first reason is that I mostly manage cool season turf here in Southern Maryland, so I can't really rely on grass filling back in throughout the summer in case there is that extensive damage. 2, it's because my customers want grub control. I'm providing a service, taking care of their lawn, and that's what they want. And 3, I practice IPM, or integrated pest management. Integrated pest management is a holistic approach that tries to make use of a variety of controls, not just chemicals, to maximize the results, and allows for a certain level of pest presence when we can tolerate it. We're not in the business of killing grubs. We're in the business of growing dense, strong turf. I'm using Lesco's Acceloprid. And what that is the trade name of Chlorantraniliprole, made by Syngenta. For the same reasons that I listed earlier, it gives me a wider window, it's more environmentally friendly, and it's more user-friendly for my customers. And in my lawn care program, with my philosophies, it's the best thing for me. In addition to grubs, it also protects from a lot of those other insects that we talked about earlier, the weevils, the chinch bugs, things like that. And that is something that I'm a fan of as well. How can you get Chlorantraniliprole? Well, that is actually the active ingredient in Scott's Grub X, which you'll probably see throughout the summer in a variety of your lawn and garden centers. Make sure you read the label, apply at the label rate, and water it in with a ½ inch of water, either through your irrigation system or natural rainfall. Now, I spoke to a rep from Syngenta, and he was very confident that if you put down at least his product anyway, Acceloprid, that active ingredient can hang out in the turf for a few weeks without being watered in if you need to rely on rainfall. Maybe you absolutely do not have the means to water in this product, then he was fairly confident that it would still be pretty effective. But it does need to be watered in at some point to be effective. And make sure you put it down before the grub's eggs start to hatch. So to wrap up, just some closing thoughts to summarize what we talked about today. 1, if you are looking at grub control and you just can't swing the price of it, do not buy it. I'd much rather you spend that money on something that is a lot more important up on that list, like watering or quality seed in the fall. Get your priorities in order. 2, there are going to be a million reasons why, if you have a cool season yard, that it's going to turn brown this summer. It could be normal summer dormancy, it could be heat stress, it could be soil compaction where it's not getting enough water, it could actually be grubs, it could be disease pressure. There are a variety of reasons why. So grub control isn't going to be the be-all end-all to prevent your lawn from turning brown or dying this year. Please take note. That grub killer, that 24-hour grub killer you see in the store is not the same as preventive grub control. They're completely different things. If you put down the 24-hour grub killer this early in the season, then you are going to be wasting your money. Also, if you put Grub X down after you have damage, you are going to be wasting your money. If you have moles or other vertebrate animals digging around in your lawn, it's not always the case that they are grubs. Keep that in mind as well. And finally, if you do plan on using a grub control product this year, read the label and water it in. I'm JJ, this is Marty, and this has been the Lawn Lab.